Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, TV, streaming, all sorts of good stuff. And happy Thursday, guys. And, you know, unfortunately, Aaron Cummings isn't here with me today. We have some new COVID restrictions in place in LA, so she's not able to come on over. But don't worry, we will have Erin back on soon enough, and she sends all of her love and affection to all of you guys. And listen, we do have a bunch of stuff that we are going to cover here today, and it is so good to have you guys joining us here. Listen, a little bit of housekeeping before we get into all the main good stuff. First of all, I want to remind you, if you guys haven't done so already, why don't you take a second, click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber to the John Campea YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on all the stuff that we've got going on around here. And of course, plug time. We have spent the better part of the last year working on a documentary, a passion project documentary about movie trailers. And it is indeed called Movie Trailers, A Love Story. And it is now out and available for you guys. You can get it worldwide, wherever you are. You can get it at vimeo.com/on-demand/movie trailers. And if you happen to live in the US or the UK, you also have another option. You can actually just go right to Amazon and you can get it on Amazon. Just go to Amazon and search for Movie Trailers, A Love Story, and you should be able to find it there. Again, if you're a movie fan, if you're somebody who movies mean a lot to you, then the experience of trailers has been with you for a long time, and we had a really good time making it. And if you haven't seen the film yet, I hope you enjoyed as much as we enjoyed making it. So, and a special thank you to all you guys who have already checked the movie out, and for all your great feedback. Thank you guys so very, very much. One other thing, I want to share something kind of cool with you. I just want to share, it's no big deal. No one's going to care about this, but I care about this. All right? I care about this. So, you guys know, for the last number of months, I have become a rage evangelist for this show, a Canadian-produced show that I think is like one of the best shows on television, called Kim's Convenience. And I love this show. I love this show. Now, the star of Kim's Convenience is a guy named Paul Lee, good Canadian kid, by the way. Good Canadian kid. Wasn't born in Canada, but he is like the great Canadian story. He is a Canadian. He moved there when he was very young, and he's a Canadian citizen. And then, not only is he Mr. Kim in Kim's Convenience, he pops up in The Mandalorian. He's the X-Wing pilot that keeps showing up, right? And so that's just the coolest thing in the world. So, you know, I was rewatching a little bit of Mandalorian last night before going to bed to get ready for the season finale tonight, which we'll talk about just a little bit. I'm super excited about that. And so I just saw Paul Lee again on screen. I'm like, man, I would love to, he's Canadian. He's the star of one of my favorite shows on TV, all this kind of stuff. So I just put out this fun little tweet that just said, just so you all know, my wife's dream is to meet Tom Hanks someday. But right now, my professional dream is to interview Bitter Asian Dude. That is Paul's Twitter handle. Tell me he does not have one of the best Twitter handles in the world. Bitter Asian Dude. Seriously, a good Canadian kid, stars in one of the best shows on TV, Kim's Convenience. And he gets to be in Star Wars. So I woke up this morning and I had a whole bunch of people writing to me saying, John, check your Twitter. And Paul had tweeted back saying, hey, let's make it happen. And just, you know, does anybody happen to know Tom Hanks? So here's what I want you to do. So it looks like maybe I've now written to Paul. Hopefully we can arrange to have him on the show as a guest and talk about some of his experiences, particularly with Kim's Convenience and The Mandalorian. And I love good Canadian kids that make it good, man. I love good Canadian kids that make it good. But listen, do me a favor too. Go and follow this dude on Twitter. Go support him. Again, his Twitter handle is Bitter Asian Dude. Great handle. Go follow him, support him, and drop him a tweet and tell him you're looking forward to seeing his interview with me, John Campea. Go tell him that, just to encourage him. But go follow him and go support him. That would be great. All right, guys. Listen, we do have a number of things to talk about here today, but before we get into the main topics, I want to talk about one thing off the top, and that is this. Today is Thursday. That means tonight at midnight, technically speaking, Friday morning. But tonight, for me, it's going to be at midnight. Mandalorian Season 2 finale comes. It is tonight. I will be staying up, of course. It airs on the Pacific in Pacific time at midnight, so I'll just stay up till about 1 a.m. watching it. I have no idea how long this episode's going to be. Every episode is a different length. Obviously, I'm hoping it's closer to an hour than a half hour. We've had some shorter ones recently. I have a feeling it'll be over the 45-minute mark. I don't know that, but that's my hopes. So I thought before we get into other main topics today, it's the last chance to give some predictions. Time for some predictions for Mandalorian. And by the way, if you want to fire in a prediction as well, just go use the tip link that's near the top of the description of this video. You can send it in anytime, streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. Go ahead, fire in what your last minute predictions are for Mandalorian, because I know we've all got some, and I particularly have some Mandalorian predictions that we're going to talk about here today. Okay, so let's start with some of the obvious things. Obvious thing number one is we are going to get some kind of confrontation between Din, that's the Mandalorian Mando, and Moff Gideon. I mean, right? There's no doubt there. It would be an unbelievable cock tease, if you will, for them to have had the way last episode ended with the hologram of Mando going, basically, I'm coming for you, Gideon. I'm coming for you. And then not end that. You can't set up in the series him getting this Beskar spear that can block lightsabers and not have him get into some kind of confrontation with Moff Gideon with his Darksaber, right? Maybe Bo-Katan shows up, all sorts of good things, all sorts of madness. So yeah, obviously the obvious prediction number one, they show up. Prediction number two, we are going to get other people showing up as well. And by other people, I mean characters he has come across along the way this season. I am going to predict, again, none of this is based on any insider information. Let's just be clear. Nobody's told me this. This is just me as a fan speculating. I believe Bo-Katan and Sasha Banks and her Mandalorians, I believe they do show up. I believe this is going to be kind of the Avengers assemble kind of moment for Mandalorian. I believe he's going to call in the favor with the Marshal. I think we're going to get the Marshal from episode 1 of season 2. I think we're going to get him show up and maybe one or two other faces along the way. So we are basically going to get a Mandalorian character collection, I think. So obviously we got Boba Fett there. We're going to get Fennec. I don't suspect we're going to see Ahsoka Tano, though. I don't think we're going to see her. But you never know. I mean, I was told a long time ago, I told you guys that Ahsoka in season 2 is going to have one episode. Sure enough, she's been in one episode. So for that reason, I don't think she'll show up. But Favreau can always surprise us. Favreau can always surprise us. And I really do think this will end the Moff Gideon story part. I don't think there's going to be a Moff Gideon cliffhanger. I think Moff Gideon's part of this story comes to an end tonight. I don't know that. I'm just guessing that. That gets us in now to the bigger question that we've all been asking for weeks now. All right. And of course, the big question, the elephant in the room, the bantha in the room, if you will, that everybody's been wondering about is Ahsoka referred to send out a signal, some Jedi will show up. They go there, sits baby Yoda on the rock. Yoda on the rock sends out his AT&T signal. Somebody out there, come see me. The signal goes off in this space. Baby Yoda gets kidnapped, but the message was sent. No Jedi character showed up yet, but I think we all are believing that it's going to show up in the final episode. So that leads us to a question we've been asking for weeks. Who's going to show up? Who's going to show up? Now, these have been the candidates that we've been talking about. So let's run through these candidates again, okay? Just because today's the last day. Luke Skywalker shows up. Whether it's a de-aged Mark Hamill, whether it's another actor or something else along those lines. Because remember, at this period in time, 4 to 5 years after the end of the Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker is out there right now in the beginning stages of trying to re-put together the Jedi Order. So something like this would clearly catch his attention. So Luke is one possibility. A lot of people holding on to this Mace Windu possibility. That Samuel L. Jackson and Mace Windu, when he fell out that window, you never actually saw him die. A lot of people keep reminding about that. John, if you didn't see it happen in a fantasy movie, it didn't really happen. We didn't see Mace Windu fall for 5 minutes and then crash into the concrete with his brains and everything splattered all over the place. We never saw that happen. He could still be out there. And if so, maybe a one-armed Mace Windu comes and shows up. That's a possibility. Then we've got the Force Ghosts, right? Maybe it's a Force Ghost that shows up. Maybe it's a Force Ghost Qui-Gon Jinn. Maybe it's a Force Ghost Yoda. Maybe it's a Force Ghost Obi-Wan. Right now, my guess would be I would have said before the most likely scenario out of the Force Ghosts is probably Yoda, just because that's what he's done. He has shown up at these things at different points. Like he showed up in Force Ghost Yoda showed up in Rebels. Or at least, Force Projection Yoda showed up in Rebels. Force Ghost Yoda showed up for Luke in the previous movies. That's a good one. But with all the developments about the Obi-Wan series, I'm starting to think out of the Force Ghost options that the Obi-Wan Force Ghost is probably the most likely. Force Ghost Obi-Wan probably is the most likely out of the Force Ghost options, but there are still others. And these last three are the ones that I actually think are the most probable. All right. Start off with Cal from Fallen Order. Cal is out there. His mission at the end of the game kind of lines up with what's going on in this universe right now. You've got the actor that the character in the game was modeled after, so it looks just like him, sounds just like him because it is him. Maybe it's Cal. I think Cal is a very, very strong possibility. Even more of a possibility is Ezra Bridger. And you know what? Last night while going to bed, I wanted to get caught up on some stuff. So I watched a couple episodes of Mandalorian to get ready for this. But I also watched the final episode of Rebels again. The Rebels series finale. I went back to watch that again. And I've always thought Ezra was probably the most likely scenario out of all these individuals. I really believe that Ezra is the most likely scenario out of all these individuals. After watching that again last night, I think Cal's a strong possibility, but Ezra Bridger just showing up, it's a lot. Listen, we know he disappeared with Grand Admiral Thrawn. From Ahsoka's words, it sounds like Thrawn may be back in play. Maybe Ezra's back in play. I mean, I don't know. It all depends. Dave Filoni made it all really confusing recently when he said, hey, that final scene in Rebels, you don't actually know when that happened. Could have been before the events of Mandalorian. Could have been after the events of Mandalorian. Who's to say? So he kind of cast some confusion in there, right? Some really intelligent, smart confusion he threw in there. But I still think Ezra, out of all the individuals, is the most likely scenario. Especially when you take into consideration we've been getting these Rebels ties in recently with Ahsoka, with Bo-Katan and what have you. The most likely scenario, though, isn't one of these individuals. It's an unknown character. That somebody shows up that we have not yet met. And I think that might even be more probable than Ezra Bridger, close, whatever. But that's another. And by the way, there's another option. Nobody shows up. Nobody showing up is an option. I mean, none of us want to think that way. We all want to see somebody show up, but literally nobody showing up is an absolute option. Now, I'm seeing in the live chat some discussion that we've had before. For instance, we talked about Quinlan Vos, right? I don't think they're going to go up into that level of character, but it is a possibility as well. I'm going to bring it up one more time. I think all of these have a chance. I think every single one of these characters have a chance. But I'm going to give, out of all the ones on the screen, my most weight towards the final three. Cal, Ezra, unknown character. And then the last option is nobody shows up. I think those are the most likely, but Luke, Mace, Force Ghosts, whatever, these are all possibilities. But I'm really thinking it's going to be one of those final three or none at all. Who knows, though? Jon Favreau has been doing a great job of keeping us on our toes, keeping us guessing, so we have to wait and see. Question is for you guys. What are your predictions for this final episode, if you watch the show, for this final episode of Mandalorian Season 2 happening tonight? Some things that we think are pretty obvious are going to happen. Who do you think? Do you think a Jedi character is going to show up? If so, who? Jump on down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. with that down, let's move into our main topics today, shall we? And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by going anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. If you come across a big topic or story you think should be a main topic here, head on over there. You're going to find a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get into main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Chris Brickner. And Chris Brickner writes, Wednesday, Variety reported that HBO Max will finally be available on Roku devices starting Thursday, that's today, December 17th. While this is good, it doesn't take away from the failure that it took Warner Brothers nearly 7 months to get on one of the most popular streaming devices. What are your thoughts on this? What do you think about it taking this long to get HBO Max on Roku? Okay, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, listen, there is no way around it. You cannot talk about the launch of HBO Max. And yes, you can talk about how it didn't even have half the success of Disney Plus's launch and blah, despite the fact that they have excellent content. HBO Max has excellent content. I love HBO Max. But you cannot talk about HBO Max without highlighting its failures, its launch failures, let's say. You cannot launch a streaming service and not be on the 2 most popular streaming platforms in the world, the Amazon Fire Stick and on Roku. Roku being the top one. But you can't launch your service and expect to make a splash. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. You can't launch your service and not be on the 2 most popular streaming platforms. And yet that's what they did, and they suffered for it. Now, they got back onto the Amazon Fire Stick a short time ago, which is good. And I've been telling you guys, listen, they will work it out. They will be on Roku by the time Wonder Woman comes out. And it's happened. As of today, they are finally on the Roku. This comes to us from Variety, who writes, Roku and Warner Media have reached an agreement for the distribution of the HBO Max app on the Roku platform, nearly 7 months after the streaming service launched. HBO Max will be live on Roku effective tomorrow, that's today, Thursday, December 17th, the company's announced. The deal gives the streaming service coverage on all major over-the-top platforms. Its absence on Roku was a big hole. Roku counted 46 million active user accounts as of the end of September. And again, it cannot be emphasized enough. You cannot launch a streaming service today. Like when Disney Plus launched, they were everywhere. They were available on my Roku. They were available on my Android phone. They were available on my iOS iPad. I could get it on all my TVs. I could get it on my Apple TV. It was everywhere. If you wanted to get Disney Plus was going to make sure you could get it. But then HBO Max launched. And somebody like me, I wasn't able to get HBO Max right away because my primary streaming device is a Roku. And HBO's content is so good. HBO Max's content is so good. I didn't want to stream HBO's content on my phone or on my laptop or on my tablet. I wanted to watch it on my living room TV. And I didn't want to have to jump through. A lot of consumers don't want to have to jump through hoops. Well, I can get this patch cable and connect the lightning port from here into an HDMI adapter and then plug that into the TV and blah, blah. But consumers don't want to do that. Consumers don't want to do that, generally speaking. And so I was late to the game in getting on HBO Max and getting HBO Max as a service for myself. Because when I sat in my living room and I turned on my TV and my whole TV is right through my Roku, it wasn't there available for me, and I wasn't alone. A lot of people didn't. Question is this too little too late? 7 months, you finally put your streaming service on the #1 streaming platform in the world. 7 months later. I mean, somebody needs to be fired for that. But is it too little, too late? The answer is No. It's not too little too late. HBO Max is still a fabulous service. Look, I've said before, and I will say it again. As much as I'm looking forward to what Disney Plus has coming, if I personally as a consumer had to choose today based on what is available on those streaming platforms today, and I could only pick one, Disney Plus or HBO Max, guess what? There's a lot of stuff on Disney Plus I'm going to miss. But I'd probably take HBO Max. They just have highest quality, far more premium content. They have just been the gold standard of excellence for this kind of field for a long time. Now, that's about to change depending on how good all these new Star Wars and MCU and whatever shows that are coming to Disney Plus. So that could change very quickly. But I'm saying I really love HBO Max. And, you know, we're about to get Wonder Woman 84 on it. How big of a splash will that make? Not really sure. I'm expecting at least a little bit of a splash. So there's two parts here. Do I think it's too little too late? No. It was still a great move to get on Roku even now, even if it's a bit late. However, while it's not too little too late, there is permanent long-term damage done when you are this late getting into the race, right? There is permanent long-term damage, not fatal damage. It's not too little too late, but at the same time, they put themselves behind the 8-ball. Disney Plus literally more than lapped them. They more than doubled their subscribers in 1 year of existence. And it's hard to fall that far behind and then make a meaningful race out of it. But can they? Yes. And listen, I would recommend HBO Max. Forget all the stuff that's coming. Forget Wonder Woman 84 and forget all the other stuff that's coming. HBO Max is just a great service. So about damn time, somebody should be fired for how much they completely, absolutely botched their launch. But it's time for them to get into the race and let's see how good they can do it. Question is, guys, what do you think about HBO Max finally coming to the Roku? Are you somebody like me that you were kind of waiting for this to finally happen so you can pull the trigger and get the HBO Max thing? Maybe it doesn't matter to you at all. Jump on down into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move into main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Abdiraham Salah. And Abdi writes, "Hey, John, once I heard that Disney was going to be making a Lizzie McGuire reboot, I was happy. As a kid, being the youngest and only boy and having 2 older sisters, I was kind of forced to watch this show, the original Lizzie McGuire. However, during the Investors Day, there wasn't any information about the reboot. Well, today, Hilary Duff, the star of the show, has stated today that there was plans for a reboot, but it fell through. What do you think about this? Do you think it's a bad decision for Disney knowing the popularity of the show?" Okay, thanks a lot for sending that in. And yeah, the Lizzie McGuire odyssey, if you will, seems to now finally have been put to bed. Now look, full disclosure, I am not a Lizzie McGuirean. Is that how you would say it? A Lizzie McGuirean? A Lizzie McGuireite? A Lizzie McGuire head? I don't know. I never watched Lizzie McGuire. I'm not the demographic, so no big deal for anybody that I didn't watch the show. But it was a bit of a phenomenon. A lot of people did watch and love that show. At D23, the last D23 they held, I was there. It's the same D23 where they brought out Ewan McGregor to announce that they were doing an Obi-Wan Kenobi show. At that same event, they had Hilary Duff, they had the producers, and they announced they were going back to Lizzie McGuire. This time, it was Lizzie McGuire now as an adult, living in New York City. And it was going to be a little bit more adult skewed, right? They said because, Lizzie McGuire's now older. So it's going to, what would Lizzie be like actually today as an adult? And what would her life look like in New York? And I didn't really care all that much, but I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked to see in that auditorium, but also online, just how many people were really excited about that. That caught me by surprise. Full up, caught me by surprise, which made me feel like the odd man out, like I was the one out of the loop a little bit. But yeah, I didn't care about it, but a lot of people did. Now, from that point on, Lizzie McGuire went through a big odyssey, if you will, okay? So they get announced that they're going to make the show. Then, sometime later, they actually start production of the show. The showrunner and Hilary Duff, and I'm freezing on the showrunner's name right now, but the showrunner and Hilary Duff and their whole cast and crew, they start production on the new show. They had told Disney, look, we're going to make this one a little bit more adult because she's an adult now. And Disney greenlit it. So they get 2 months into production. And apparently they had finished the first 2 episodes, if I'm remembering correctly. And Disney saw, and Disney Plus, the Disney Plus exec saw the first 2 episodes and said, nah, we don't think that Lizzie Mcguire should have a, skew more adult. We don't think so now. And what they actually did was 2 months into production was they fired the showrunner. 2 months in. And they didn't tell Lizzie Mcguire herself. They didn't tell Hilary Duff. If I remember correctly, I think I remember hearing that Hilary Duff actually found out about it while she was on her honeymoon. She had just gotten married. She was off on her honeymoon. And apparently that's how she found out. Anyway, then some back and forth went. They were going to try to retool the show. Hilary Duff a little while ago put out this big social media post basically asking Disney, hey, if you're nervous about us being a little bit more adult, put us on Hulu. Don't put Lizzie McGuire on Disney Plus. Put us on Hulu. You're putting some other mature shows over there, so put us over there. And then time passed and time passed and time passed. And then finally, it's official. It died. This comes to us from Variety. The planned Lizzie McGuire revival is officially dead at Disney+. Series star Hilary Duff made the announcement on Instagram on Wednesday saying, I've been so honored to have the character of Lizzie in my life. I know the efforts and conversation have been everywhere trying to make a reboot work, but sadly, and despite everyone's best efforts, it isn't going to happen, she continued. I want any reboot of Lizzie to be honest and authentic to who Lizzie would be today. And it's what the character deserves. So this is, listen, I'm not going to pull any punches here. This is an embarrassing look. This is absolutely an embarrassing look for the folks at Disney Plus. Because by all accounts, it's not like Hilary Duff and the showrunner pulled a fast one on Disney Plus and weren't upfront with them. Listen, we want to see what would she be like today. So there's going to be some topics and themes that are more adult. And there's not going to be a kiddie Lizzie McGuire show anymore. Because not only has Lizzie grown up, their argument is, the audience who loved her so much have also grown up, and they're ready to see some stories about where they are in their lives today. And you know what? To me, that makes sense. It's not like the Lord and Miller situation with the Solo Star Wars movie. And I love Lord and Miller. You know I love Lord and Miller. But Lord and Miller pulled a little bit of a fast one on Lucasfilm. They agreed to make a certain type of movie, and then they got on set away from all the execs and started making a completely different kind of movie. And so they did kind of pull a fast one on Lucasfilm, but that's not what happened here. The talent did clearly communicate to the execs the type of show they wanted to watch. The execs greenlit it, let them go off, and then after saw 2 shows, yeah, no, this isn't what we want. It's like, well, then why did you greenlight this in the first place? Why did you greenlight this show in the first place when, by your own admission, the creators of this show, remember, I don't even give a damn about Lizzie McGuire, but there are a lot of people who do. And if the creators come to you and they are open and transparent and honest and tell you exactly what kind of show they're going to make, and you sit in your ivory tower boardrooms and you approve it, well then, and then you announce it to all the Lizzie McGuire fans at D23, and Hilary Duff comes out on stage and you make this big show and dance of it, why, when they make the show they told you they were going to make, do you suddenly pull the plug on it? At least give it its 1 season. And if you do think it's a little too adult for Disney Plus, then do exactly what Hilary Duff said and just move it over to Hulu. That's the fucking reason you have Hulu. I'm sorry, but it's studio executive stupidity, son. And these are super smart guys. They're all guys way smarter than me. And that's why there's no excuse when they act this stupid. They are far smarter than me. So they have no excuse to act stupid. You tell the audience, you get the audience and the fans excited. And then you pull this. And you already spent the money. You already shot 2 episodes. Finish it off. Let them finish season 1. Put it on Hulu Plus or on Hulu. And if it doesn't work, okay. You fulfilled your obligation to the fans. You told them you were giving them a Lizzie McGuire reboot. We did it. And if it doesn't work, then you pull the plug on it. But this to me is just asinine. And I know this has been an episode where I'm calling for people, whoever's in charge of HBO Max's launch should be fired. And now I'm saying whatever executive greenlit the Lizzie McGuire thing and then pulled the plug on it, gone. They should be gone. I mean, this is just ridiculous. And this is all coming from a guy who doesn't give 2 drips of urine about Lizzie McGuire. Not 2 drips of urine do I care about that show. But there are people who do. And you told them it was coming. And the show makers told you exactly the kind of show they were making. And you greenlit it and told the fans it was coming. And then you pulled the plug because they delivered the show that they told you they were going to give you? That I don't understand. So it's an embarrassing look on them right now. Anyway, guys, that's just my take on it. Question is, what do you think about this whole Lizzie McGuire situation? Maybe you are one of those McGuireans, McGuirees, McGuireites, McGuire heads, McGuirers, McGuire. I don't know what you call yourselves. Maybe you're one of them. Maybe you're not. Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's get into main topic number 3, shall we? And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Phoebe? Phoebe? I'll go with Phoebe. Phoebe? I'll go with Phoebe. Hey, John. According to the Wrap, Marvel are still hoping to release in cinemas. That's true. According to the latest Disney Plus big announcement event, they announced a lot of their films still coming to theaters. Absolutely. According to the Wrap, Marvel are still hoping to release in cinemas. However, they are currently drawing up new contracts for talent for Disney Plus release. Considering what we have heard about Warner Brothers and AMC recently, what effect could an announcement early next year that films like the upcoming Black Widow will now go straight to Disney Plus have on the future of cinema in this difficult time? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. So what has been going on is this. If you guys haven't been keeping track about what's been happening, a lot of movies that were made specifically to go to theaters have either A, been pushed a lot because of the pandemic, or B, some of them have instead opted to jump onto a streaming platform. Most notably of these, Mulan was released straight to streaming. Wonder Woman 84 is about to come straight to streaming on Christmas Day, along with a Pixar film, Soul. That's coming as well. Now, Warner Brothers then kind of shook the boat a lot when they came out and announced that they were going to move all their 2021 films to HBO Max. That has turned everybody in the business against them. Studios, the Directors Guild is threatening to boycott them. Legendary Pictures, the people who paid for those movies, are threatening to take them to court. All bunch of stuff. But it did raise a really, really interesting topic and a really interesting question. What happens with the contracts of people who had signed on to these movies for these movies to be in theaters? In a specific case like Gal Gadot and the director of Wonder Woman 84, Patty Jenkins. They had bonuses built into their contracts if Wonder Woman 84 made X amount of money at the box office. So what happens if Wonder Woman 84 also drops on HBO Max at the same time? The star, Gal, and the director, Patty, are going to be ripped off of a lot of money that they would have had coming to them because it's not going to make the box office dollars it would have, and therefore they're not going to make their bonuses. Well, what Warner Brothers did with Wonder Woman 84 specifically, and this is how this all leads into the Marvel contract situation. Warner Brothers went to Wonder Woman, although none of their other films, but they did for Wonder Woman, and said, you know what, Patty and Gal? We are going to pretend that Wonder Woman 84 is going to make $1 billion at the box office. And obviously it won't. But had Wonder Woman 84 been released in a regular non-COVID environment and we could have done the full theatrical exclusive release, we're going to say and assume, I don't know, $1 billion, they said. $1 billion is what it would have made. Now, I personally believe that is a very fair number. It could have made a little bit more than that. It could have made a little bit less than that. But I think assuming that Wonder Woman 84 could have been a $1 billion film is a fair assessment. So they said to Gal and Patty, We are going to treat and trigger your bonuses based on Wonder Woman 84 making $1 billion. And that meant Gal got $10 million, and that meant Patty got $10 million. So yay, they were all happy. A lot of people with the other Warner Brothers movies who weren't getting the same sweetheart deal, not so happy, but there it is. The question then comes up about Marvel and the MCU, all Disney films really, particularly when it pertains to Disney Plus. How are they going to deal with this situation moving forward? Like, okay, today was a pandemic. What if there's another pandemic? Because a lot of the MCU has built into their contracts, there's a lot of back-end deals and bonus structures in the MCU's contract. This is a way for the MCU to keep the upfront costs of the actors relatively low, but the actors stand to make a whole ton of money if their movies do well in theaters. Disney is now having to be forced to ask the question, well, how do we navigate this later on? None of us expected a COVID-19 pandemic, and yet here it is, and it shut the theaters down. What happens if something else happens in the future? Whether it's an elongated COVID-19, maybe the vaccines turn us all into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't know. Something else goes wrong, and we can't put these movies that we made and made contracts for in theaters, and we have to put them straight to Disney Plus. What is being reported right now is that Marvel has now engaged their legal team, and they are redrawing the format for how their contracts are going to work. This comes to us from The Wrap, who writes, Marvel Studios is beginning to explore new talent deals to provide flexibility in case the pandemic or other factors lead the studio to bypass theaters and take films straight to Disney Plus. Under the new contract language, key above-the-line talent is somebody like actors, writers, directors, and producers will receive adjusted compensation depending on whether the film opens in theaters or debuts on Disney Plus streaming service, according to an insider with knowledge of the situation. So basically what they're saying here is that they are going to preemptively make sure that they put standard now moving forward in all of their contracts, the notion that, yes, certain movies we may have made to be released theatrically. And we'd have built into these contracts certain bonuses you as producers and directors and actors will get if these movies perform a certain way. But just so we don't have to deal with this later in case something bad happens, we are also going to put and agree on in advance, you and I are going to agree in advance that if something happens that requires us to move these movies from theatrical straight to Disney Plus, and I'm sure they'll put in the contract what sorts of things would be allowed to force Disney to move it to Disney Plus. Like it can't just be, Bob Iger had a bad day today and he wants to put you on Disney Plus. No, so they'll put in the contract specific types of situations that could trigger Disney moving a movie from a theatrical release to Disney Plus. And then they'll say, if one of those things happen, this is how we will treat your salary, compensation, bonuses. We'll handle it this way. This is absolutely the right thing for Disney and Kevin Feige to do. It absolutely is. Because we are already seeing the nightmare scenario that Warner Brothers is having to deal with all their directors being unhappy, all their stars being unhappy. These were things they did not work out and finish in advance. So Disney is like, okay, let's make sure we take care of all that when we sign the initial contracts. So when we sign the contract and something bad happens, nobody gets surprised. Now, it should be pointed out, and this is important to understand, this will not affect existing contracts. So whatever contracts were written and done for Black Widow, this won't affect that. If something goes wrong with Black Widow, and they have to put it on Disney Plus instead. Because remember, right now, at the Disney event, they said Black Widow is still a theatrical release and is going to have the 90-day theatrical window, and then it'll be on home streaming for everybody else. That's their plan right now. But if something goes south, they're going to have to deal with everybody involved in Black Widow on an individual basis and try to work out an emergency situation, much like Warner Brothers did with Wonder Woman 84. And that same is probably true of Eternals. Right? it doesn't affect this new move from them will not affect the Eternals contracts. They already signed those contracts. Those agreements have already been made. So if something goes south and Eternals has to go on to Disney Plus, Disney is just going to have to deal with them all one-on-one on an individual basis. But moving forward, you know, Disney doesn't want to have to go through that headache every time something bad happens and they're forced to move a theatrical movie to Disney Plus. They want to have that all settled in advance with standard new contract clauses. It's kind of boring to talk about Hollywood contracts and all, but it will become pertinent to what it is moving forward. And I think it's a key change, but it's an important change. One of the things, though, that I think this is going to lead to is you will no longer see, once more and more of these movies start going to Disney Plus, the day of the sweetheart Robert Downey Jr. getting $50 million from one movie. And by the way, I don't blame Robert Downey Jr. If somebody's willing to give you that money, you take it, kid. Absolutely, you take it, sir. But the days of that happening are going to be gone. Disney is going to start tightening up the purse strings, as they always do. And in these situations, in these scenarios where what if these theatrical movies get moved to Disney Plus? Yeah, you're not going to have somebody who could stand to make, an actor who could stand to make, you know, $45 million from one movie for 2 months' work. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen anymore. So we are seeing a fundamental tectonic shift, not just in how movies are going to be delivered, but also the types of compensation and windfalls that a lot of actors can make. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. Question is for you guys. What do you make of this change of direction for Disney and Warner Brothers, or Disney and Marvel, when it comes to their standard contracts they're going to start having their talent make? I think it's an intelligent thing to do. It solves problems before the problems happen. It may not work out great for the highest of high-end actors who get paid ridiculous amounts of money, but I do think it's kind of a thing that is inevitable and is a good move for them to do. What do you guys think? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down and out of the way, let's now move on and start taking your live questions, shall we? And how do you get a live comment or question here on the show? Once again, it's really simple. Just go to the top of the description of this video and you'll see a tip link. That's streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You can just click on that, send in a comment or question. If it's reasonable, it'll be read live here on the show. And of course, at the same time, you're going to be supporting the channel as you do it. And all of us here, thank you guys very, very much for that. Okay. Let's jump right into it, shall we? And we're going to get things started here with Josh, who writes, what does Josh write? Oh, there he is. I feel bad for Hoyts and Village, the two major Aussie theater chains. Open for months, but had no new blockbusters other than Tenet to play. As much as having to see Wonder Woman 84 on HBO Max sucks for you, I'm stoked to get to see it in theaters next week. And you know, that is one of the really unfortunate things for a lot of, like some countries, like Australia, particularly New Zealand, that have kicked this pandemic's ass. Like there are some countries out there that have just kicked this thing's ass and did everything right and properly. They took strong measures, they enforced them, and they took it seriously. And they're like, New Zealand officially pronounced their entire country COVID-free. So I feel really bad for countries like those that have done a really good job. And they're set in prime and we can have all of our theaters open, but there's no content to sell. And that does suck. That seems like getting punished for doing a good job. But hey, man, listen, at least the content is coming and Wonder Woman 84 will be released in theaters where you are. So I'm glad you're going to be able to get it. My theaters won't be open. I'll have to watch it on HBO Max. Whatever. I wish I could see it in a theater, but you are. I'm a little bit jealous. So go celebrate that, dude. All right, next up. I'm Speaking writes, not a big fan of the last Star Wars movie, neither am I, to be honest, but going by the stories, the boys and Leia's life really did let her down. Luke vanishes for years to an island, Han disappears on his ship with Chewie, and Ben turns to the dark side when she is left holding the fort on her own. I mean, but that's one of the things that because remember, I did not like The Rise of Skywalker. I mean, I made an entire like 20 plus minute video about that, but I love The Force Awakens, loved it. And I think what it did was it really humanized a lot of the characters. none of these characters are perfect, you know, and each one of them dealt with pain and loss and temptations and whatever in different ways. Luke confronted his failure with Kylo and maybe being the cause of the next massive galactic genocide that his father caused. Han dealt with his own sense of loss and failure because of his son. His son obviously fell to the same temptations that his grandfather Anakin did. And in the heart of all that was our princess, was Leia. And to me, employing those types of devices is one of the reasons why I actually loved that first one so much. It really humanized. It didn't gloss over and fairy tale eyes. That's not a real word, John. Whatever. I'm using it anyway. Fairy tale eyes. These characters, and it made them really wrestle with it the way I believe real people would. And there was something that I found very endearing about that for me personally, but it also made me appreciate Leia even more. All right, next up. Ryan Lohner writes, it's the anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge. Oh, I didn't realize that. And I have to point out that one of the people there was an 18-year-old minesweeper named Mel Brooks, who blasted Al Jolson at the Germans to demoralize them. This guy earned making the producers. Listen, Mel Brooks is a legend and icon in so many ways. Even if you take out, to me, his absolute triumph, not Blazing Saddles, but Spaceballs. Yes, I said it. I think Spaceballs is Mel Brooks's supreme triumph. Blazing Saddles is also pretty awesome. This dude is just iconic in so many ways. And listen, I know entertainment and movies in Hollywood for a lot of people can be a what have you done for me lately sort of thing. But if you have not checked out Mel Gibson's stuff, I keep saying Mel Gibson. Braveheart, take our freedom. No, Mel Brooks. If you've not checked out Mel Brooks' stuff, you absolutely must. Because I'll tell you what, as old as a lot of his stuff is, it holds up. Blazing Saddles will shock you and make you hold your guts in laughter and all this kind of Spaceballs is just one of the greatest spoofs. I mean, I just love Spaceballs so much. Anyway, thanks for that, Ryan. Next up, Gabby writes, I've seen a lot of Fantastic Four fascinating on the fan casting. Fascinating. I've seen a lot of Fantastic Four fan casting on the last few days, and I think I have to make a PSA. People, the Thing is going to be CGI. They don't have to cast a big, bulky, bald dude for the role. Ben is the heart of the Fantastic Four. It has to be a great actor, too. Oh, and I agree. They're not going to do a dude in a suit. Although, I've said this before, and I will say it again. While I clearly did not love the original Fantastic Four movies, obviously, there were a few things that worked about it. And I will say this, I liked Michael Chiklis's Thing. Sue me. I liked Michael Chiklis's Thing. I thought that was pretty cool. But no, in today's Thing has to be CGI. And you're right. A lot of people saying, oh, Dwayne Johnson should be. You know, it doesn't have to be a big bodybuilder dude. Right? Like Sue Storm didn't have natural invisibility powers, and then she just got more invisibility powers. It's not like Reed Richards could kind of stretch before he got his powers, and now he can super stretch. So being the Thing doesn't require Ben Grimm to be this massive, huge, hulking individual to turn into a massive, huge, hulking individual. So I agree with you. Just get a good actor. Just get a good actor who could play a tough guy. But, and then you're good. So I agree with you, Gabby. All right. Tom is Les Grossman. He really is. I am Team Tom on this. Obviously, yesterday we talked about the Tom Hanks justifiable meltdown that he had. I'm Team Tom on this. You can tell this isn't the first time they've breached protocols. How many people would kill for the jobs that they have right now instead of living on savings due to the industry shutdown? Following COVID protocols is the least they can do. You know what is shocking to me? When I saw when I saw Mel Gibson, Mel Brooks, Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, when I saw and listened to Tom Cruise's blow up, I couldn't imagine anybody being against what he said. I was shocked. I'm not going to lie to you. I was shocked to find out how many people were upset with the way that Tom Cruise managed that situation. It was completely appropriate the way he handled that situation. Everybody wants to be treated like precious little princesses. You have to treat me like a princess. You have to, no, listen, these guys had clearly broken the protocols before. The movie had already been shut down twice because of the pandemic. The entire industry is on life support right now, and they're trying to make this movie, and along comes the producer, who's also the star, but along comes the producer, Tom Cruise, and he sees a couple of guys who have already been told and warned before, breaking COVID protocols that threatens their fellow crew members' lives, that threatens their fellow crew members' livelihoods because if the thing gets shut down again. It threatens the company that is paying their salary. That thing gets shut down again for 2 weeks because of another COVID thing. They're going to be losing millions and millions and millions of dollars. And I'm sorry, kiddies, but in the grown-up world, when you screw up that badly, sorry, princess, somebody's probably going to yell at you. Someone's probably going to yell at you. And if that's what it takes to drive the point home, then do it. And listen, I am amazed that Tom Cruise didn't fire them. He let them keep their jobs. He gave them another chance. But he had to make sure he communicated in no uncertain terms, and he had to make sure they understood what's at stake. You are risking people's lives. You're risking people's jobs. There are other people out there in this industry who are out of work right now, missing their mortgage payments, not paying college tuition for their kids, don't have health coverage now because of this pandemic. And here you are with a job, and you can't even follow the damn rules that we've already warned you about. You morons. Yeah, sorry, princess. You do that in the real world, someone's going to yell at you and maybe hurt your precious little feelings. And I was amazed. I'm not going to lie to you. I was amazed to see some people online more upset that Tom Cruise yelled at these poor little princesses, that Tom Cruise yelled at them, than they were that these guys were risking people's lives, risking people's jobs, and risking the entire production. I couldn't believe it. I was actually seeing online people who thought the worst thing here was not these guys who were breaking the rules on a production that had already been shut down. They were threatening people's livelihoods, and they were threatening people's jobs. They were more upset that Tom Cruise yelled at them for doing it. That's the type of world. Like, what the fuck are you guys smoking? Seriously. What are you smoking? I am absolutely 1000%. And the very fact, again, I've gone back to this a few times, but the very fact that Tom Cruise let them keep their jobs is, to me, a level of patience I can't even conceive of. That especially if they had already been warned before, and it sounded like from that diatribe, it sounded like they had been warned before. They had clearly communicated the rules are, and he still let them keep their jobs. To me, that's an insane amount of patience. And listen, you don't like being yelled at? Quit. Now listen, I'm not abdicating constant verbal abuse or anything like that. But this, I'm sorry, when you do something that deserves a response and you get that response, that's not abuse. Grow up, put on your big boy and your big girl pants, take the scolding, learn from it, and move on. That's just me, guys. That's just me. Take it for what you will. I know a lot of people disagree with me on that, and that's fine. We're here. We're not here to all agree, right? What's the fun? What's the fun if we all agreed about every single topic we discussed? We're here to disagree sometimes. That's sometimes the best part of it. But yeah, that is my take on it, and it is what it is. All right, next up. Gin and Tonic writes, "Hey John, can't believe it's been 4 years since the release." Yeah, the other day was the 4-year anniversary of the release of Rogue One. Here is a quick question. Not your favorites, but what are your 4 most important? I don't do lists. I don't answer list questions, just so we're clear. But here's a quick question, not your favorite, but what are your 4 most important TV series in sci-fi which changed TV? Mine are X-Files, Star Trek, Buffy, Babylon 5, and Lost. Each started new genres. I think that there's no doubt Star Trek would have to be up there. There's no doubt Star Trek had to be. That's like the grandfather of a lot of these sorts of things. I would disagree about Buffy and Babylon 5. They are amongst the best of the genres, but I don't know that they changed TV all that much, to be honest with you. I don't know that Lost changed TV either. Lost was fantastic up until the final season, but Lost is absolutely fantastic. I'm not sure it changed TV. Just like for me, I think my all-time favorite TV show is Ronald Moore's Battlestar Galactica. It's my all-time, not just favorite sci-fi show, it's my all-time favorite show, period. But I don't think it changed television. I think it's the best show ever made, but I don't think it changed television. Same as like one of my other favorite shows of all time, Sons of Anarchy. I think that's one of the best shows ever made, but I don't think it changed television. So, but Star Trek, yeah, there's no getting around. Star Trek changed and kind of helped mold what the future of sci-fi and TV would be. So that's definitely a good one, Jen. All right, next up, Casey McNatt writes, I agree with your opinion that Disney Plus should release the Marvel 6-part series weekly instead of all at once. If the show is good, it makes us anticipate the next episode from week to week, and it keeps us from waiting 2 months for the next show to start. I mean, absolutely. Listen, we've had this discussion many times. While I am personally a binger, I love discovering a new show. Like when I first discovered The Expanse, by the way, season 5 is out on Amazon right now. They've started putting out the episodes on Amazon. When enough of you guys told me to check out The Expanse, I think it was already finished season 3. I'm a binger. I love that I was able to turn on The Expanse and get through all 3 seasons in like a matter of a couple of weeks. I love that because I am a binger. That being said, it has been proven over and over again that the best way to release these shows is week-to-week releases. It builds anticipation. It builds word of mouth. It builds the fan community. It builds hype and it builds buzz. And it's shown by every single metric. You know, you get a lot like Mandalorian where the ratings in the shows keep going up and up and up and up and up. And the result is we have been talking every single week about Mandalorian months after it debuted. Months after Mandalorian season 2 episode 1 debuted, we're talking 2 months we've been talking about it. Whereas on like Netflix, which with some of their best shows, like The Crown, the latest season of The Crown, it was really good. The Crown is one of their most popular shows. Who's talking about The Crown today? Nobody. Who's talking about The Crown today? Who is talking about this most recent season of The Crown today? Because it came out weeks ago, and now no one talks about it. But you release these things, look what happened to The Boys, right? The Boys season 2. All these people were all mad, and I get it because people like binging. I like binging. But when they announced that The Boys season 2 was going to come out on a week-by-week format instead of just dropping it all at once like they did with season 1, a lot of people were really upset. But look what the results were. Their viewership numbers got bigger and bigger and bigger with every episode, and we were talking about The Boys for months. Yeah, so there's just no way around it. While I love binging, if you're a network, there's no escaping the actual statistical truth. It is far more advantageous to drop it week to week. It may not be what I prefer, but it is what works much better. So there's kind of that, Casey. All right, next up. Mischievous Gremlin writes, hey, John and Rob. Rob's not here today. Never is on Thursdays. It sounded like Tom Cruise has channeled his inner Les Grossman. Yes, it is. I really need to watch Tropic Thunder again and see if it still holds up from what I remember. It was a fun movie. Tropic Thunder was great, but I'll tell you what. And that, by the way, that movie, Tropic Thunder, Tom Cruise playing Les Grossman, everybody forgets today. That movie saved his career. Everybody forgets today that Tom Cruise was, it's generous to say, on a bit of a downturn in his career. There had been the whole jumping up and down on the couch thing on Oprah and some movies he had put out that didn't perform as well as previous movies. And he just was not Tom Cruise anymore. And then all of a sudden, he played Les Grossman in Tropic Thunder. And by embracing doing something as stupid and ridiculous as that, everybody loved him again after that. It was a brilliant career move. But I'll tell you this, the closing credit song on Tropic Thunder, playing Ludacris's Get Back as Tom Cruise is doing his dance. That is one of the best credit musical pieces ever in movie history. At least once or twice a year, I just get the urge to watch that again, jump on YouTube, load up the end of Tropic Thunder to see Tom Cruise dancing around to Ludacris's Get Back. It is one of the best endings to any movie ever. I still adore it and I still love it. Anyway, next up, Dan Ketchum writes, good for Tom Cruise. If someone is so lazy and or stupid, they are willing to risk the lives and livelihood of everyone else on set, they deserve to get ripped a new one. Absolutely. And again, what everybody glosses over on this is that he still let them keep their jobs. He still gave them another chance, but wanted to make damn sure if you are going to stick around here, you are going to know how serious I am about this. And he let him know. I just can't, I think a lot of other people would have just calmly walked up to them, said, okay, guys, you know, we have these rules and regulations. We've told you before, and now we see you doing this. So please grab your things and leave. Your services are no longer required. Now, I'm not going to speak for you. But if it's me, if I'm one of those guys that made the massive screw up, I would rather have the boss come to me, rip into me for a minute, and give me another chance than have the boss walk up to me and say, you screwed up again. Okay, you're gone. If I don't like being yelled at, I have the choice to quit. But I would much rather have the boss, instead of just calmly firing me, I would much rather have the boss, come at me, scream at me, drive his point home, and let me keep my job. That would be the option I would take 10 times out of 10. So anyway, that's just me. All right, next up, Ralph writes, saw Wonder Woman 84 today in IMAX. That's right. It opened in some countries, didn't it? First time being in theaters this year, was super hyped. The film was pretty good. Patty really doubled down on the Richard Donner-isms this time around. For the most part, it worked, but it might come off cheesy for some. I've been hearing some really good things about it, which excites me because the trailers for Wonder Woman 84, I'll just be honest, have not done it for me. I have not loved the trailers for Wonder Woman 84. But I maintain an unshakable belief in the movie because it's Patty Jenkins. And what Patty Jenkins was able to do with movie number one, with a, let's say, modestly talented lead actress who's only gotten better, but what Patty was able to do with that first movie blew me away. And now you move into the next chapter of the story with now a lead actress who has continued to work and improve and gotten even better with a terrific cast all around. Yeah, the trailers haven't worked for me, but I still have unshakable belief in it. I'm hearing fantastic things about it. So it doesn't sound like you were as overwhelmed with it, Ralph. But I'm glad you still enjoyed it, and I look forward to watching it on Christmas Day. All right, next up, Casey McNatt writes, and sends in $20. Thank you so much, Casey, for supporting the channel on that level, man. Seriously, we appreciate that, man. Writes, hey, John, just wanted to give you this huge tip today because I recently just watched Movie Trailers, A Love Story. That's my documentary. So there's another plug for it today, and it was really interesting seeing the history of movie trailers over the years. Great job, dude. Thank you so much for checking out our documentary, and thank you so much for the kind words. And just the fact that you paid for the movie clearly, and that you wanted to come in here and just tip just to say something nice about our movie. Thank you, man. That means a lot to me very much. So thank you. All right. And everybody take Casey's advice and go watch Movie Trailers, A Love Story, available today. Kylis Menon writes, recently watched Birdman. I love that movie. I have gained a better appreciation for it now than when I watched it when it first came out. Alejandro Inarritu, the director, is one of my top 5 favorite directors ever. He also made Babel with Brad Pitt, which I like. No, he was fantastic. That movie very well could have won Michael Keaton an Academy Award. But that movie has so many nuanced, subtle things in it that you miss the first time around. I've watched the movie a few times and I loved it the first time, but it's one of those movies where there's so much layered things going on that you pick up on new things you never really picked up on before the more times you watch it. If you've never gone back and rewatched Birdman again, I highly recommend that you do. It is truly spectacular. I'm glad you went back and have had that experience with it as well, Kyle. Thanks for sharing that, man. All right, next up, Howard the Duck writes, I still hear moviegoers say that some movies are still objectively better than other movies like Citizen Kane. Is it because they are saying it on a technical aspect or by other means? No, anybody who tells you that any movie is objectively better than another completely doesn't understand movies. Look, the bottom line is this. I explain this all the time. I will say it again. Movies are art, and art is completely subjective. There is no objective measurement to art. If two guys are running a race, you can objectively measure which one is faster. This guy crossed the finish line at 9.2 seconds, but that guy crossed the finish line at 9.1 seconds. You can measure it, and you can empirically, objectively, statistically, by measurement show that one guy was faster than the other. How do you do that with a painting? How do you do that with a movie? You can't. Like a piece of art that hangs on the wall in the gallery, 10 people can stand around it and each have 10 different perceptions of what it is they're seeing. We all see and have different experiences that are colored and kind of managed and sometimes distorted by our own personal experiences and what we bring to it. But that's what engagement with art is. So if somebody says to me, this movie is better than that movie, I'm like, okay, because yeah, but that's me subjectively. I'll say, I think this movie is better than that movie. But when I say that, I understand it's all subjective. Somebody might like that other movie better than this one and might think the opposite of me. But whenever somebody says to me, no, this movie is objectively better than that movie, I'll go, okay, cool. By what measurement? What are you measuring? Because if you say that pot of water is hotter than that pot of water, cool. We can get thermometers, stick them in, and see with empirical measurements which one is actually hotter. And we can come to a definitive, objective truth which of those is hotter. But with the movie, what are you measuring? What are you measuring? Are you measuring? You can measure the runtime in a movie. Does that make a movie good or bad? No. So now, I as soon as somebody tells me, this movie's objectively better than that one, I just instantly kind of tune them out. It's like, okay, so there's no point in having a discussion with this person because they don't understand the most fundamental truth about movies and art. It's all subjective. It's all subjective. Anyway, that's that. All right, next up. Dan B writes, 1 of 2. Hey, John. First time writing in, but long time viewer. Well, thanks for writing in, Dan. Regarding The Mandalorian, one thing I haven't heard a ton of people talk about is that the final scene in Rebels with Ahsoka most likely takes place after the events of The Mandalorian. With Filoni implying as much when asked about the chronology. I think this is important to consider, as to me, it discounts the theory of Ezra showing up anytime soon in the show. What are your thoughts? P.S. I love the movie trailers, love story. Thank you so much for that, Dan. But again, I think you misunderstood what Filoni was saying. Filoni actually threw a curveball. And in this particular situation, I thought it was a very well-placed curveball. When he brought into question, when exactly does that final scene in Rebels actually happen? And Dave Filoni came out because if it happens after the events of Mandalorian, then it takes a lot of possibilities off the table. But Filoni came out and said, who's to say? And Insomniac just sent in a super chat badge on the live chat. Thank you so much for that, Insomniac. I appreciate that, man. Dave Filoni came out to say, who's to say when that last scene actually happens? It could have happened a few weeks after the end of Return of the Jedi. It could have happened 1 or 2 years after the end of Return of the Jedi. Or it could have happened 10 years after the end of Return of the Jedi, after the events of Mandalorian. But Dave Filoni came out and threw that question out there and said, like, we never definitively said when that happens. By doing that, what Dave Filoni has done is kept every conceivable possibility on the table about what could happen from here moving forward. So I thought it was a really smart curveball he threw out there. I really, really did. Anyway, It's going to be exciting to see what happens tonight, man. Final episode tonight. For some of you watching this tomorrow, but for me, it's tonight. Cannot wait. And don't forget, Anne, my wife, Ann Campea, in case you didn't know, my wife, Ann joins me on these things. Tomorrow, Ann and I will be doing our weekly and final Mandalorian spoiler discussion. That'll be tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it'll be the last one of the season, so make sure you guys come and join. It'll be a fully open spoiler discussion. Again, that's going to be tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we hope that you guys will join us for that. Anyway, thanks for sending that in, Dan. Appreciate it, man. Next up. Oh, and Adam Muhammad just sends in a super chat badge. Thank you so much, Adam. Appreciate that, man. Ryan Cleary writes, "Hey, John. What are your thoughts on why we haven't seen anything for Eternals, even though it was supposed to be out by now? Is it simply not wanting time to lose hype, like with what might happen with Black Widow? Love the show and documentary. Congrats on the house." Well, thank you so much for that, man. And thank you for DJ for sending a super chat badge, man. Thanks, guys. Well, it's simply this. The Eternals is still a year away. I mean, that's the bottom line. The Eternals is still a year away. There is literally no point in spending any advertising dollars. There's literally no point in spending any energy or effort or resources in promoting a movie that doesn't come out for almost another year. I believe it's November of 2021 when it comes out now. So, like, any money you spend and any effort you spend on putting out, again, Robert and I will often go back to, look at Godzilla King of the Monsters. They literally started their ad campaign a year before that movie came out. And what happened? The movie ultimately disappointed at the end. And Iconic Reactions sends in a super chat badge. Thank you, Iconic Reactions. Appreciate that, man. They literally, by the time Godzilla King of the Monsters came out, everybody was like, oh, that movie's still coming out? Like, haven't they been talking about that like for a full year? You blow your proverbial load way prematurely, right? Not that any of you fine gentlemen would know anything about blowing your load prematurely. I'm just saying that's what Godzilla King of the Monsters did. They blew their proverbial load way too early. And I think the box office suffered as a part of it. Any buzz or hype or excitement, and Insomniac sends another one, and thanks, man. Any buzz or excitement. I love these badges you guys send in the live chat. Thank you. Any buzz or energy or excitement that you generate is going to be gone in a few weeks. So what was the point of it? So yeah, I make nothing of the fact that they haven't started promoting this movie because it's not coming out for another year. And so why waste the effort right now? You know what I mean? Wait till about 4 months before the movie comes out, then rev that up. And believe me, they are going to, Ryan, you and I will not be disappointed with whatever marketing campaign they put together. They are going to put out some, I think DC actually makes better trailers. I don't know why, but Marvel does a great job making trailers for their stuff as well. I just look at the most recent Loki spot, which was incredible. But Disney or DC does an even better job with their trailers. But trust me, they're going to put out great trailers for Eternals, and it's going to be well worth the wait. All right, next up. Cody Hunt Films writes, "Hey, John. I went back and watched the Rogue Squadron Investor Day presentation, and Kathy Kennedy does say when the movie takes place. She says, it's in a future era of the galaxy. I presume that means this takes place after the sequel trilogy." You know what, Cody Hunt? I did not notice that. I did not pick up on her saying that. So I'm going to have to go back and watch that again, because if she did say that, and I'm not saying she did, because if she did, I missed it. If she did say that, I missed it. So if she did say future era of the galaxy, then that tells us pretty directly that Rogue Squadron, this new movie, will take place either at or after the events, either shortly or more extendedly after the events of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Which that would be interesting, because that would mean they're covering another time period moving forward. Again, if that is true, if you're right about that, Cody, and I don't know for sure that you are, but if you're right about that, that part of the presentation went right over my head, and I need to go back and watch that again. Thank you for pointing that out to me. I'll have to go in and check that out. All right, next up. Cody Hunt Films also writes, "Hey, John and friends. I couldn't help but notice that there was no update on Avatar at Investors Day. Wouldn't investors want to know Disney's plans for the sequels to the second highest grossing film of all time? What gives? The release date is December 2022. It might be one of those things where it is so far off, because literally that is a movie that, first of all, everybody knew it was being made. It's got a release date. Is there anything to update them on? Not to mention that it is still like 2 years away. So I'm not sure. Dino Vader sends in a super chat. Thank you, Dino Vader, for that super chat badge, man. I appreciate that, dude. It is still a full 2 years away. Look, they had so much stuff to talk about that was coming out right now that I guess they didn't feel the need to talk about something that is, not coming out till it's 2020. That is essentially coming out in 2023 in many ways, right? So I'm not surprised they didn't talk about it. They will do an investors meeting, I'm sure, next year, and next year they'll probably talk about Avatar. But the movie's already shot. Everybody knows about it. It's already been shot. It's now just waiting to release. They already had a lot of other stuff to cover. So I'll be honest with you. I wasn't terribly surprised they didn't cover Avatar. What was there to talk about? You know what I mean? They'll have another investor day. Hell, they'll have 2 more investors day calls to do. They'll do one in 2021 and they'll do one in 2022, both before the new Avatar comes out. So I'm not terribly surprised by it at this point. All right, next up. An anonymous viewer writes, not sure if you caught Monday Night Football. That game was crazy. That's game of the year. That game was game of the year. Ravens versus Browns, with Lamar going out with cramps and coming back. Some people say he had to go out to poop, but whatever. And coming back on 4th and 5, throwing an amazing TD pass. People are saying that was like a movie. What are some great sports moments you think would make a great scene? Well, my all-time favorite sports moment, and I'm a little bit biased because I'm Canadian and it's a hockey-related one, and it happened in my hometown of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. There was this big event that used to be held all the time called the Canada Cup. It was basically the World Cup for hockey. I mean, really, it was the World Championships of hockey in many ways. It came down to Canada versus Russia. And on the ice, for the first time ever, you had the two of the greatest, maybe the 2 greatest, period, hockey players of all time on the same team, on the same line. It was Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux. John, what about Bobby Hull? What about Bobby Orr? And I'm not taking you, but I'm saying you have to acknowledge, if not the 2 greatest hockey players, 2 of the greatest hockey players of all time were on the ice at the same time, playing on the same line. And it was right down to the wire. And the time was ticking down in the game. And then Gretzky to Lemieux, shooting down the ice. Gretzky to Lemieux scores the winning goal. It was crazy. That's one of my favorites. Now, there's another one in hockey history where it was the 1972, so I think it was before I was born, I think, Summit Series. This is the greatest hockey event ever in history. The 72 Summit Series between Russia and Canada. And it was over multiple games. In the final game, Paul Henderson scores that goal. I mean, those are the moments. People who aren't Canadian have no idea what I'm talking about. I might as well be speaking gibberish to you, but those are the ones to me. But that game was fantastic, man. Anonymous viewer also writes, what a great week this is going to be. Not only do we get The Expanse back, 3 episodes of greatness. By the way, I watched all 3 episodes that they've released. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. But The Stand also drops. It's a Christmas miracle. Huzzah, and keep up the filthy. Well, listen, we also got Wonder Woman 84 coming at Christmas as well. But this week as well, we got Mandalorian is back. Got a new episode of Star Trek Discovery. I know Rob doesn't like Star Trek Discovery. I really do. Whatever. So yeah, good stuff all around, Anonymous. Huzzah indeed. All right. Soul Brother writes, Lucasfilm announced that Hayden Christensen will return as Darth Vader, but didn't mention if James Earl Jones will return as the voice of Vader. Do you think it was just unnecessary bit of information to bring up, or maybe he just won't return? I think there's a possibility he doesn't return. Now that seems weird because he did just do the voice for Darth Vader in Rebels a couple years ago, right? So he did just do that a couple years ago. The fact is, James Earl Jones is about to turn 90. And maybe he just wants to retire. Maybe he's just done with it all and everything. So, I don't know. Or maybe part of getting Hayden Christensen to come back is like, listen, I can't come and be in this if just somebody else is going to be doing my dialogue. Like, it's got to be me talking. So, listen, we don't even know how they're going to use Vader right now. Whether it'll be in flashbacks, whether it'll be in visions, whether it'll actually be confronting face to face, which is probably more likely. But does he have the helmet on? Does he have the helmet off? I mean, there's so many variables right now that, and let's not discount the possibility that they very well could still bring back the great James Earl Jones. I mean, they just got him to come back to be the voice of Mufasa. I loved hearing his voice as Mufasa again. So who knows? They didn't mention it. But maybe it's just one of those things that it's not a surprise. Maybe they know, we all just assume if Vader's going to be there, we know James Earl Jones is doing the voice. What we wouldn't assume is that Hayden Christensen would be back. So maybe that's there. We still got a lot of time. We'll figure these things out, but I won't be surprised if he is in it still. I won't be surprised if he's still in it, even though they didn't mention him. But I also won't be surprised if he's not. All right, James LH writes, John, you've mentioned how the US have handled COVID. Here in the UK, not much better. MI7 is filming here, so I am in total agreement with Tom Cruise. I'd like him to say the same to many other people. Whoever leaked this, what were they hoping to achieve? I don't know. I'm personally very grateful they leaked the audio, because that should be our attitude right now. Take this damn thing seriously. You know, I said on the show yesterday, and I'll say it again here, is that one of the big problems is that we as people, and I include all of us, by the way, all of us, I have done this, you have done this. We probably all do this more times than we'd be comfortable admitting to ourselves. But the fundamental problem is that we as human beings are selfish little dicks. And quite often we don't think about how our choices and our actions could affect other people. We just never take that. A lot of times we just don't take that even into consideration. How does what I'm about to choose to do potentially affect other people? You know, I talk about the ass clowns that drink and drive. They know I'm fine. I'm fine. Okay, that's cool that you're making that decision for you, but what you're not taking into consideration is if you get into a car accident, it's not just you being affected, it's other people being affected. Think about them, you insane dick. You know, sort of thing. But that's what we as human beings do. And again, I'm not pointing my fingers at any individuals because we all do it. It's a fundamental flaw in what we are as a species. But a lot of that came into play. So I'm personally glad that audio got released and that it forced it to become a topic of conversation. So personally, I'm kind of glad that they did, James. That's just me though. All right, K Major writes, I hope Tom Cruise brings that same energy to being a flight instructor in Top Gun Maverick. I am looking forward to Top Gun Maverick. Let's see if he pulls out some of that Les Grossman in Top Gun Maverick as well, K Major. All right, James Argento writes, what are your bold predictions for Mandalorian season finale? Mine is Luke and or an envoy of Luke to show up in the finale. That's another option a lot of people think. And maybe not Luke himself, but Luke sends somebody, like a brand new character. That's why when we were talking about this a little bit earlier, and we were talking about this particular options, is the final option there is unknown character. And maybe that's an envoy of Luke Skywalker. Some dude shows up, say, hey, some guy shows up in like a Rush t-shirt. I'm Eddie. Yeah, I work with Luke. He told me to come and said somebody called him, missed a call. I'm supposed to be here to find out who it was. I mean, it could be somebody like that, right? Could be along those lines. Again, my prediction is it's either Cal. While the Force Ghost stuff, all those things are possibilities, I still think it's Cal, Ezra, or unknown character. Or nobody at all. Maybe that's it. Maybe it remains a big cock tease until next season. Have to wait and see. All right, next up. NPE94 writes, hey, John, hope you're well. I am well, thank you. I have noticed a general difference in the response Tom Cruise's outburst. Everyone under 30 in my timeline is horrified by his screaming, while everyone over 30 is like, yep, that sounds like my old boss. You know what? I don't even notice that difference. I think this has been a problem my generation and older generations. It's not just the new generation. I have found a number of people who are damn well old enough to know that what Tom Cruise said was completely justified. And I have found I've had people in my personal timelines and writing to me that are like 19 years old, 17 years old, just entering the workforce going, yeah, if I did something at my job that was going to cost the company that I worked for $1 million, yeah, I'd get yelled at, and I should get yelled at. Like, so I find young people aren't stupid. I find there are young people today who totally got what Tom Cruise did. Say, yeah, that was totally justified. And I find some older people that are like, no, you shouldn't talk to people like that. And again, to me, the amazing thing is there are people out there who are more upset that Tom Cruise yelled at these idiots than they are about what these idiots were doing. The issue, if you are making the issue that Tom Cruise yelled, you are so misguided. You are so focusing on the wrong thing. If you think the issue here with people on a set with tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, and people's jobs on the line, and people's health on the line, and there are people who violated, obviously multiple times, violated the safety rules in place to protect all of that, and somebody yelled at them for breaking it, and if you're focused on the fact that somebody yelled at them, you think that's the thing we should be talking about? Re-examine your priorities. Re-examine your life. Anyway, that's kind of my take on it. But listen, we all have different ways of looking at things, and I'm saying things in a hyperbolic kind of way, but I am clearly on Tom Cruise's side here. I'm clearly on Tom Cruise's side. Not everybody is. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I don't want to make it sound like I'm not, like I don't. I do. I respect everybody has the right to have their own opinion on that. But I clearly am on Tom Cruise's side here. All right, next up. Cassian writes, hey, John, I'm concerned about Black Panther 2. Feige said they wouldn't be recasting Black Panther and would be focusing on the other characters. I took that to mean T'Challa will still be Black Panther, but maybe only appear in uniform. What do you think? I mean, theoretically, if you want to break down the semantics of what Kevin Feige said, theoretically, what you are proposing is possible. Like, hey, Black Panther, there's just not another character. There's Black Panther is out there, but Black Panther is not going to be in this movie. I suppose that's possible. I think, though, what is most likely, because you guys know I feel they should have recast T'Challa. I think T'Challa is too important of a character. He's had too much cultural significance. The thing that impacted the world was not the Black Panther mantle. It was the character, the man, T'Challa, as played by Chadwick Boseman. And therefore, I think they should have recast it to honor that, to pick up the baton for Chadwick and carry on what he started. That's my opinion. But they're not doing that, and I get it. That's fine. I think clearly what they will do is have another character take on the mantle. It really shouldn't be Shuri. It should be M'Baku, but maybe it'll be another character altogether. But I think while you are accurate in what you're saying, they technically could squeeze that in. I think what the implied message here is a different character will be Black Panther. At least that's what I think. Maybe you're right, though. Let's keep an eye on that. All right, next up. Darren writes, hey, John. If Warner Brothers stick by their guns, how will Dune's success be measured when they decide if doing the sequels is viable? Regardless, is Denis Villeneuve's position as director for potential sequels untenable now after his article? Also, got the 4K Cinema Paradiso disc today. I cannot see Denis Villeneuve working with Warner Brothers again. Outside of absolute signed contractual obligations, which I don't know if there are any, I cannot see Denis Villeneuve working with Warner Brothers again. If you read that article that he wrote, forgive me as I refill my soda. If you read that article that he wrote in Variety, that op-ed piece he did, that's not a guy that's looking to work with these people again. He doesn't want to work with them again. And he pretty much said, you just basically destroyed any chances of a second Dune movie. So I don't know. Maybe Warner Brothers goes to Denis and say, look, we are sorry. We're going to pay everybody bonuses at this, and we will guarantee in writing that we will let you finish Dune 2 and maybe a Dune 3 with X amount of a budget. And maybe they go to him and try to appease. I don't know. But right now it's very difficult, not impossible, but it's very difficult for me right now to imagine Denis Villeneuve coming back to work with them again. I mean, when you read his article, he clearly does not like them at this point. He clearly does not like them at all at this point. So some magic's going to have to happen, man. Some magic's going to have to happen, Darren, my friend. All right, next up. Mickey Roberts Meyer Burnett writes, you misunderstood my question about whether we would see Jedi again. I mean pre or post Skywalker saga. For example, High or Old Republic, or a new Jedi post-Rey era. Thoughts? P.S. Don't think Holloway beat Volkanovski in the second fight. I know Ann does. Oh, I think, here's the thing, just quickly about Holloway and Volk. There are some people who thought Holloway won the first fight. You're crazy. Anybody who thinks Holloway won that first fight against Volk, I think is absolutely crazy. Volk clearly won that fight. It was relatively close, but to me, there was no doubt at the end. Volk won that fight. The second fight, I still think Volk won the second fight, but I don't think you're crazy if you think Holloway won that second fight. That was a much closer, much more nail-biting fight, where when the decision was read, I wouldn't have been upset if they said Volk won, which he did, or if they said Hollow won, which he didn't. But I wouldn't have been shocked or mad at the decision if they said it was a much, much closer fight. I'll give it that. Yes, we are going, for instance, we already know we're going to the High Republic, right? We are going to the High Republic. We already saw, if you saw the promo video that Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy put out about High Republic, you already know Jedi are some of their main characters. So we are absolutely getting pre-Skywalker saga era Jedis. We are absolutely getting that in the High Republic. When they do get around to doing Old Republic, we'll get it then too. And I do believe we will see some, like if what somebody wrote in earlier about Rogue Squadron being held in a future time, I think there'll be some Jedi running around. I don't think they'll be main characters, but that means that time period is now in play, and I think we will. So yes, Jedi, Star Wars is not all about Jedi, but Jedi are a core piece of Star Wars. And so we should get movies like Rogue Squadron and what have you, and Solo that doesn't involve Jedi and Force users. But Jedi and Force users are always going to be an integral part of Star Wars. So yeah, when they go into the past and they go into the future, I do think there's going to be a future for Jedi characters in Star Wars, Mikey. Thanks for writing that in. Robble writes, hey man, first time donating here, but a long time fan from Movie Talk days. Thank you so much, Robble. May the big guy rest in peace. Oh yeah, John Schnepp, that's right. Wanted to ask you about Ahsoka, who told Vader, I am no Jedi. Why wasn't the fact that she forfeited her Jedi-ness brought up in episode 5? I think what they're making it clear, what everything else in Star Wars always made clear, she's Jedi. She can at some point say, technically speaking, I'm not a Jedi. I kind of turned on my membership card, but it doesn't matter if you turn in your membership card, she's Jedi. And I think maybe they'll go more into it in the Ahsoka Tano series that Jon Favreau is going to be showrunning. Maybe they'll go more into it there. But I think what that episode of Mandalorian made very clear, she's Jedi. Bo-Katan referred to her as Jedi. When Mandalorian referred to them as a Mandalorian and a Jedi, there was no disagreement. There was no disconnect. It was that she's a Jedi character. She's a Jedi character. She may not have belonged to, it's like this. Let's say I don't know anything about mechanics, just so we're clear. I know nothing about fixing cars. I can put gas in and I can top up my oil. Maybe refill my windshield wiper fluid. That's about how useful I am with cars. But it's like if you're a mechanic and you've been fixing cars for 20 years, but then all of a sudden don't belong to the mechanics union anymore. Okay, but you're still a mechanic. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's how I kind of consider it, Robo. All right, next up. Kevin Feige writes, how's this for your MCU movie? I Got a Stiffy, a John Campea breakdancing love story. Not quite sure how I Got a Stiffy figures into the MCU per se. Not quite sure how it figures into the MCU. I don't know if the Stiffy becomes my superpower. which would be very true to life. I'm joking. Yeah, but hey, I like whatever Kevin Feige wants to do with me, I'm in. All right, Brazilian Dude writes, really enjoyed Wonder Woman 84, hearing from some people who've watched it now. Feel so fortunate to have seen it on the big screen in Brazil. Max Lord and Cheetah much better than expected, and Steve's return worked beautifully. Fun, campy action, reminiscent of early 2000s comic book movies. Hope you enjoyed. I hope I enjoyed too. And you know what? I had unshakable faith in Patty Jenkins, but still a little bit nervous because I haven't been thrilled with the trailers. It has been such a relief and joy for me to hear from all these people who've seen it saying, you know what? It's really good. And I'm thrilled to hear that, and I cannot wait to watch it on Christmas Day. Thanks for sending in your review on that, Brazilian Dude. Appreciate that, man. Gerald Edward writes, whoa, John, I'm going to stop you right there. Now, are you willing to go on record unequivocally and resolutely and state that Warner Media and AT&T did not do this deal in response to COVID-19, but to catch up to Disney? Yeah, I am. That's my opinion. I think they're using the COVID. Now, look, there's no doubt. There's no one single motivating factor, right? There is no doubt that there is no single factor in all this. It is a collage of multiple things that have gone into creating an environment that they are in right now and how they are going to formulate their response. So it's multiple factors, no doubt. However, if you were to ask me what was their top motivation, what was the top motivating factors in this collage of factors and multiple motivations, what was the main driving one? It was their desire to try to shift focus to their failing, to their failed launch of HBO Max and try to desperately stay in the race with Disney Plus. Yeah. I'll say that unequivocally that is my opinion. That is my opinion. And everything I have heard so far backs that up. COVID cannot be discounted completely because it is a major part of why the context is that we're in. There's no doubt about that. But if you were going to ask me, was the main reason, their motivation, the fans? No, it was not. Was the main motivation COVID? No, it was not. Their main motivation, their main impetus, and Rob read that email the other day. It was very damning. I think that makes it pretty clear. Their main motivation is trying to keep up with Disney and trying to catch up with what Disney Plus. Disney Plus has lapped them. HBO has been around for ages. The HBO Max subscriber numbers include everybody who was originally signed up to HBO, and they're still, Disney comes out for 1 year and they have more than double the subscribers. That's a situation AT&T and Warner Brothers don't want to see. And so, yes, I completely believe that. I might be wrong. I don't have evidence that I would take to court and present in a court of law about that. But if you're going to ask me from what I've seen, what my opinion is, yeah, I really do believe that. And I think everything points to that. But we'll find out. You never know what lies in the hearts of men, Edward. You never know. All right, Ant writes, over under 25%. An animated film wins Best Picture within 25 years. Oh, way over. Also, if one does win, over under 95% that it's a Pixar film. I would definitely say with animated films, look, we went decades and decades and decades with no animated films getting nominated for Best Picture. Then Beauty and the Beast came along and kind of cracked that shell. And then in the span of, then a bunch of years passed, but then in the span of just a couple years, 2 Pixar films did get nominated for Best Picture. I believe it was Up and Toy Story 3. So in the next 25 years, I would take well over 25%. Not a guarantee, but I would take well over 25%. And 95% that it's a Pixar film is too high, especially with Disney Animation doing so well recently and other animation companies. So I would say 95% is too high. I'll take the under on that. Great question though, Ant. Willow writes, other than Phantom Menace, what is the greatest trailer for an ultimately bad or disappointing movie that you've seen? I mean, there are too many to count. There are too many to count. There are so many times that we've seen fabulous trailers. I mean, there are many times we've seen bad trailers to great movies, but even more, we've seen terrible trailers or fantastic trailers to great movies. Obviously, Phantom Menace is an example, but go to the Transformers. All the trailers I mean, I like the first Transformers movie that Michael Bay did. Actually, I really like the first Transformers that Michael Bay did. But if you look at all the trailers for all those Transformers movies, they're all great. Maybe not so much the last night. The trailers for that one weren't all that good. But really, Transformers 2, Transformers... I mean, those trailers were fantastic. And every time I came walking out of one of those Transformers movies, I'm like, why do I let them keep tricking me? I mean, it's hard. But so that's one. But I'm sure if we really sat down and thought about it, Willow, we can come up with 1,000 other, maybe better examples. But that's always one that first comes to my mind. All right. The Hbo Minotti writes, just keep smiling, Campea. Just keep smiling. Oh, thanks for that, man. Next up, Russell Amador writes, hey, John. With tons of rumors and speculation going with casting pertaining to Spider-Man work from home. I mean, Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man work from home. That would be a great title. Let's turn your attention to Ned Leeds. Over under 20%, we see him suiting up as the Hobgoblin in the film. I'm going to go under. By the way, I keep forgetting the actor's name. He's a Filipino dude who plays Ned in Spider-Man. He's a Filipino dude. I think it's Jacob Batalon. I love him. Obviously my family loves him. On my wife's side, my wife is Filipino, and so they love seeing Jacob. What's going to be really interesting is Jacob. Let me see if I can find this picture. I don't know if you guys seen this. Now, no intention of doing any body shaming or anything like that at all. But there are sometimes you see some people who get so overweight that you start to become a little concerned about their health. Like I love this guy and I want to see him around and doing movies for a long time because I think he's great and charming and wonderful and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I was seeing Jacob Batalon and he was getting so big that I was, as an individual, as a fan, I'm not worried about how he looks. I just started worrying about his health. Because, you know, I know what happened to John Candy and I know what happened to some of these other greats. And I, for one, was just getting a little bit worried about his health. I don't know if you guys saw this. We talked about it kind of recently, but I guess Jacob himself decided to start taking his health really seriously, and he posted these pictures of him recently. Look at him now. Dude, I said this on my show the other day. I lose 10 pounds, and I think somebody should make a movie about me. What an incredible accomplishment that is to lose 10 pounds. Crazy. Look at what this dude did. And so so good for him. Again, I don't care what he looks like. I love Jacob looking that way. I love Jacob looking that other way. Again, I was just starting to get a little concerned about his health just because of how large he was getting. But I mean, dude, what he was able to do over there, that is not easy. So what I'm really curious about is, how is he going to look in this movie? Are they going to do like what they do with that one actor in This Is Us, where he lost all that weight, but they put a thing on him to make it look like he's still heavy? Are they going to still make him look a little heavier just to fit more in? Are they going to explain his new sudden physique in the story? I don't know. Bottom line is, I don't think he's going to be Hobgoblin. I think he's just too charming of a character. I don't think they're going to do that. But you never know. That might make it even more effective. So you never know. Let's see. Next up, Chris writes, hey, John, love all that you do. Thank you so much, Chris. Do you think at some point in the future, Lucasfilm will do some way, shape, or form of Star Wars Episode 10 through 12 trilogy, regardless of how many years after Episode 9, and whatever new characters, do you think it'll happen? Absolutely. Yeah, Rob and I have talked about this before. Just the marketing alone. Star Wars Episode 10. The episodic, now it may be a while. It may be a beat. We may not see that till like 2014, 2015. But I 100% believe that at some point it'll be a new story, new characters, all that kind of stuff. But it will be connected to probably the Jedi and all that kind of stuff. It'll happen. Yeah, it's just you're leaving too much money on the table. They will absolutely be episodes 10, 11, and 12. I have no doubt about it. None at all, Chris. All right, next up. Dark Knight Rises writes, "Hey, John. Writing in response to Tom Cruise's blow-up, yes, as the producer, he has the responsibility of the movie, but someone else should have been addressing the crew. Dark side to Cruise, Matt Lauer. Over. No. Listen, if he comes across it, yeah, somebody else should have addressed it if they caught them. Tom Cruise comes walking in a room and he sees what's going on and he's the boss. And it's his production that is on the line. Now, listen, I'll tell you straight up. At the height of things, like when I had like 20 plus people on my staff, if I came across somebody on my staff that was not just doing something dumb, but was doing something that was threatening my team, and threatened to hurt and damage what I was building when I was paying them to be there, yeah, we were going to have a talk. And if it was done repeatedly, then it's going to be heated talk. Yeah, of that, no doubt, no way. Especially Tom Cruise, again, like he was expressing that, listen, I'm the one who's on the phone every night with insurance companies. I'm the one who's on the phone every night with all these studio heads. I'm the one dealing with all this stuff because Hollywood is trying to use us as a model to get productions up and running. There are people out there losing their jobs and their homes and their health coverage and tuition for their kids, and they're losing all that because they can't keep the damn movies up and running because of morons like you, he would say to them, because of morons like you can't follow the simple, basic damn rules, even though you've been told several times. So I'm sorry, but as the guy who is in that position, he was very appropriately one of the ones to talk to them. Now, it would have been better if somebody else had caught them and said, dude, you don't understand. If Tom catches you doing this, man, you're gone. The fact that Tom Cruise did not fire them, to me, that's the part to me that speaks volumes, that he still let them keep their jobs. That he doesn't want them to lose their income. He doesn't want them to lose their livelihood. So he let them keep their jobs, but he had to also forcefully let them know in no uncertain terms how serious he was, that if this happens again, even though this seems like to be the multiple time, you're done. But I'm going to let you keep your job right now because I don't want you to be out of work. That's incredible to me. And you guys know, I am not the biggest Tom Cruise fan in the world. I do believe he is a few marshmallows short of a full s'mores. I've said that before. I'm not going to be disingenuous and suddenly pretend like I'm the world's biggest Tom Cruise fan. I'm not, but I really respect that. Not just that he gave him a tongue lashing, but also that he still valued them and them wants them to still have their jobs and employ, and he didn't fire them. I would have fired them on the spot. I'm not going to lie to you. You put my crew at risk. You put my production at risk, especially after you've been warned. If that's me, there's only a one sentence thing that comes out of my mouth. Pack up, you're gone. That's it. That's what I would have done. The fact that Tom Cruise, full respect to that dude, man, that he let them keep their jobs, full respect to him. Anyway, Joe Sanchez writes, hey, John, I was wondering how you think Marvel will go about having someone else hold the mantle of Black Panther when Killmonger burned all the heart-shaped herb in the first movie. P.S. Unrelated note, thoughts on one of my many favorite shows, Bojack Horseman. I never really watched Bojack Horseman, so I've had a lot of people ask me about that, but I've never really watched it. I've seen a couple episodes, but not enough to give you a real answer. Irrelevant. There will have been a secret stash of the other heart-shaped herbs. They will find out that Forrest Whitaker's character, just in case of just such a tragic thing that happens to Wakanda, that he set up another site that had a secret stash of the heart-shaped herbs. I mean, it's an easy thing for them to fix, and that's clear. Because they can't have Black Panther without superpowers, right? It can't just be a dude running around the Black Panther suit, getting the hell kicked out of him. Or her. It can't just be that. So they will definitely say there's some kind of secret stash, or the super advanced Wakandan technology we're able to replicate and synthesize the heart shaper. They'll come up with something, but there will definitely still be the heart shaper. No doubt to me. All right, Jonathan writes, this hissy fight with HBO Max and Roku was shallow and childish. Thank God it's over, though. Finally can stream HBO Max on my Roku. It is a great, great day for HBO. It's a great day for Roku. It's a great day for the fans who've been waiting for it. 46 million users of Roku. It was ridiculous that it took this long for it to get on there. Thankfully, it's done. And I knew it would be. I mean, you knew it would be done in time for Wonder Woman coming out because they want people signing up for Wonder Woman. And so I'm glad it's done, Jonathan. I'm right with you on that. All right, Shane Bennis writes, big Disney Plus energy. Not quite sure what you're saying, but you said it with enthusiasm, so I'll go with it, Shane. Thanks for writing. Jared's Reviews writes, I agree that Marvel should have recasted Black Panther, but my question is, do you think we will see Killmonger again? No. I remember early rumors saying that he might appear in a flashback scene. To me, Killmonger and T'Challa are closely connected to each other. Not really, though. I mean, they just met, and the moment they met, one tried to assassinate the other. And then there's some familial, I mean, they're cousins. So I'll tell you one of them. That one Michael B. Jordan line, hi, Auntie. That was like one of the best lines in that movie. But no, he was a character who served a purpose. He was there. He died. There's no redeeming that character. Some people say, oh, have Killmonger be the new Black Panther. They're not going to do that. Killmonger was a homicidal, genocidal maniac. He was literally preaching genocide. He wanted to commit genocide on the world and even talked about finding their enemies and killing all their children. He literally tried to launch a world war. He tried to assassinate the king. He killed Dora Milaje. He betrayed the country. He literally brought them to the brink of global catastrophe, genocide, and war. There's not, I'm a good boy now. There's no doing that. So no, I don't think we're going to see it again. That's part of the reason why I kind of floated that crazy idea. I could see Michael B. Jordan just being recast as T'Challa. Not Killmonger. I could have seen that happening, but obviously that's not, and I knew that was a long shot. Anyway, but no, I don't see them bringing him back again. I don't. Maybe in a flashback scene or something along those lines, perhaps, but I don't see them actively bringing the character back. Even though this is the Marvel fake death universe, so you never know what'll happen, Jared's. All right, Matthew Phillips writes, hey, John, could the formula for Bond films ever change, or are those types of movies too beloved? Some ideas I've had. 1, take Bond back to the 50s and 60s era, i.e. Man from U.N.C.L.E. 2, have the movie focus on another 00 agent alongside Bond. Mad Max. I mean, I don't know. The idea of taking Bond back to a different era is interesting. But then are you just redoing Man from U.N.C.L.E.? You know, one of the interesting things about the Bond movies is the Bond movies always happen in present day, wherever present day was, you know, whenever present was when the movies came out, it always kind of happened in present day. I don't think you change that. I think you keep, personally, I think you keep that up. I think that's part of the allure of the series. So yeah, I don't know. I think you keep it in modern day, but listen, they absolutely could. If they wanted to do a nostalgia shot, you could do that. You could have like a 1 or 2 shot James Bond, cast a totally different Bond, and say this one happens. You know who's kind of done that? Archer. If you guys watch the Archer animated series, right? They've had his fever dreams where he's like in totally different eras doing things. Maybe you could do something like that. I don't know. I personally think, though, they keep it in the modern context. All right. The Wakandan Forever. Just got a few minutes left here, guys. The Wakandan Forever writes, I submitted my final exams online today. Congratulations, dude. This semester is done. Go Cal Golden Bears. The idea of anyone other than King T'Challa ruling Wakanda was unthinkable to me, but I must admit hearing everyone's different ideas for Black Panther 2 has me excited. And listen, while I thought they should have recast T'Challa and made T'Challa still King of Wakanda and Black Panther, you have to admit that it does open a lot of options and a lot of possibilities. I still think the best possibility was recasting T'Challa, but in the absence of that, there are a lot of very intriguing possibilities that are on the table as a result, including a lot of fan theories that we've been hearing. And so we've heard already a couple in this live chat as well. So it does open that door, Wakanda. And again, congratulations on submitting your exams, man. All right, Wakanda also writes, Rob has really been thinking outside of the box with his Black Panther 2 ideas. He brought up a lot of unique scenarios I never even considered before. So if Namor or anyone else out there wants to come and take on Wakanda, let them try Wakanda Forever. By the way, I should point out that while there have been a lot of rumors about Namor maybe coming in, it's important to understand there has been nothing to verify those rumors. There has been absolutely nothing substantial to even remotely suggest that Namor is coming and is going to be a part of Black Panther 2. Not saying at the same time, there's been nothing definitive that says he won't. It's not like Ryan Coogler or Kevin Feige came out and said, well, the one thing I can tell you is we won't be using Namor in Black Panther 2. They never said that either. So there's no verifiable evidence that suggests Namor will be in Black Panther 2 or won't. But it's just that it's one of those things where the rumor of Namor being in there is passed around so much that some people just start assuming that's what's happening. And I just wanted to make sure we all keep in mind, there has been nothing official that says Namor is going to be a part of Black Panther 2. Doesn't mean it can't happen. Just saying we got to keep that in mind. All right, next up, Slim Kim writes, I love weekly releases. Me and a couple of my co-workers have Disney Plus and all watch Mandalorian, so it's cool that every Friday we come in and get to talk about the episode. Hope the MCU shows them the same format, and they are. So January 15th, WandaVision is going to release one episode a week. Ann and I are going to do a spoiler review discussion of that as well, just like we've done with Mandalorian. And you're absolutely right. The week-to-week release is great for fandom. Again, I'm a binger, but the week-to-week release format has been awesome for fandom. It was great while The Boys Season 2 was coming out. It's been great for Mandalorian Seasons 1 and Season 2. And I think it's going to work really, really well for the Marvel series. Now, of course, the big caveat to all of that is the shows have to be good, right? If WandaVision sucks, then having it release weekly isn't going to help it any, right? So it's still all predicated on the show has to be good. But if it is, the week-to-week release is definitely going to work in its favor. All right, Slim Kim also writes, one of two. Personally, I don't want any of the Netflix Marvel characters versions put into the movies. To me, they were never in the MCU. To Kevin Feige, they were never in the MCU either. I hope whichever characters they decide to bring over will be recasted. Yes, that includes Daredevil. But it was all Marvel TV. The whole same Daredevil thing needs to stop too. Marvel Studios doesn't have any obligations to bring versions of characters into their movies that they had no part in making. Leaving those versions in the past, it's like putting junior varsity players on varsity. I don't know if I would go that far, but yeah, listen. While Marvel Television tried to imply in several different ways that the Netflix Marvel characters lived in the same universe as the movie MCU characters. You know, a newspaper article on a wall in the background about Hulk and the alien invasion and things like that. These little things that they would do. The movies never had any direct impact on the shows, but more importantly, the movies never so much as in the slightest way reference those shows. Never once in the slightest way did Kevin Feige, who really didn't have anything to do with those Netflix shows, not once did Kevin Feige ever so much as give a hint or an Easter egg or a reference to the things going on in the Netflix shows. He wanted nothing to do with them. So while in Daredevil, you saw a newspaper article hanging on the wall in the background, in Marvel, in the MCU movies, there was never any of that. Now, that doesn't definitively prove that we'll never get any of those characters bringing over, but it is unlikely. Possible, though. Possible. Like the Charlie Cox thing. I still don't believe that Charlie Cox will show up as Matt Murdock. I mean, maybe Charlie Cox just as an actor playing a different character, maybe. I still don't believe that Charlie Cox is showing up in Spider-Man as Matt Murdock. But that being said, like I say a lot, there is a difference between what you believe and what you know. I don't know that he's not going to show up. It is, listen, even me, somebody who says I don't believe he's going to be there, I have to acknowledge it's still possible. It could happen. There are ways it can be done. And maybe Kevin Feige will do it. I'm just saying for now, until I see more information and more actual real evidence of it, I don't believe it's going to happen, but I'm completely open to the fact that it could be real, could be true. Never know. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Last question of the day. We'll take from Derek Woodron. And Derek Woodron writes, good morning, John and Aaron. Unfortunately, Aaron couldn't be here. We're going to have her back here soon, though. We will have her back here soon. Congrats on becoming a homeowner. I kid you not, guys. As soon as I'm done this show, I'm going to hop in my car and I go take a drive. I'm going to sneeze. I'm going to hop in my car. I'm going to go take a drive and I go to pick up the keys. Ann and I are picking up our keys today to our first house that we've ever bought. And I know that's old hat for a lot of people. Everybody buys a house. I get it, but it's hard to buy a house in LA, man. So we had to move a little bit further. Our house is going to be about an hour outside of where we live now, where the houses were more affordable, but we got what we consider to be kind of a dream house for us and something that we could afford. And it's beautiful. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to bore you with my personal life details, but I've wanted to buy a house for so long, and living in LA and the LA area has just made it so prohibitive. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to spend $700,000 on a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to do that. So we finally decided, now that both of us work at home, that we can move a little bit outside of town a bit. And I go to pick up the keys today, and I'm so stoked. I'm so stoked. Anyway, we'll move into the new house at the end of January. And because we've got some renovations that we want done on the house. So we're going to give our contractor like 6 weeks to do it. And you're going to see a new studio. It's not going to be radically different, but we're going to be moving into a new studio. Anyway, let's get to Derek's question, who, by the way, tipped in $20. Thank you, Derek, for supporting the channel on that level, man. Really appreciate that, dude. All right, Derek writes, good morning, John and Aaron. Congrats on becoming a homeowner and 2 days before my birthday. This will be the first time since I can remember not going to the theater on my birthday or Christmas. Did you go to the movies on Christmas? You know what? While Canada and the US do share 95% of the same pop culture, like our pop culture is 95% the same. One of the things that really surprised me when I came down to the US was that people go to the movies on Christmas Day. I was shocked to find out is the single biggest movie going day of the year. That's just not something we did in Canada. I think it may have caught on a little bit in the last few years in Canada, but me growing up, going to the movies on Christmas was never a thing. And it's crazy how big of a popular of a thing it is down here. And so I know for a lot of people, going to the movies with family, or like after the gift giving and eating a meal, getting together as a family and going to a movie has been the tradition for a lot of people. And unfortunately not going to be able to do it this year. And that is unfortunate, but it's never been part of my tradition. It's just never something I was a part of, to be honest. And it was really kind of surprising to see it here, but I think it's a great tradition. I think it's a fabulous tradition, and hopefully it's something we'll be able to get back to sooner rather than later. All right, guys, listen, there are still a few questions left here to go. Giovanni, Benjamin, Big Poppy, and a couple of others. Do not worry. We will start off tomorrow's live questions part of the show with your questions. So you sent them in. We're going to get all caught up on them. Don't worry. Your questions are going to get answered. But for now, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, guys, and making this show a part of your day. Believe me, I am so aware about what a great privilege it is that you guys would take out a part of your day to hang out here with us and all your fellow film fans to talk about our favorite things. It is truly an awesome honor. Special thank you to all you guys who sent in those live comments and questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel while you did it. And all of us here at the John Campea Show, thank you so much for that support. Guys, there's light at the end of the tunnel, but we are still in the midst of the crap right now. So please, everybody, do the four main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.